a o e i u ü bo po mo fo de te. This is a series of videos about Chinese Pinyin, but before we get to know how to pronounce the alphabets, let me give you a quick introduction about Chinese Pinyin and Chinese character so that you can have a whole picture about Chinese language to help you understand better and learn faster in the future. Some of you may have been to Chinatown or a Chinese restaurant where you say Chinese characters, but it's nearly impossible to understand what it means without English translation or picture. Unlike some Western languages, say Spanish, if you are a person from English-speaking country, and English is the only language you know, but you can still guess right some words in Spanish because they have many similarities, and especially the letters are almost the same, except the pronunciation, of course. But with Chinese, it's nearly impossible because Chinese characters and its pronunciation are two totally different things. So to learn Chinese, you will have to learn Pinyin, the pronunciation, which I'm gonna just call Pinyin in the future, Pinyin and Chinese character, and of course meaning. So that by combining these three things, you will be able to know how to pronounce and use a Chinese word or a Chinese character. When we were kids at elementary school learning Chinese, we also had to learn Pinyin at first. And then we learned characters, and then we worked really hard to remember the connection between those two things, so that in the future we would be able to pronounce the word, the character itself without looking at its pinyin. So I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard to learn Chinese. You probably have heard many different references to Chinese, like Chinese, Standard Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese. So what's the difference between those things? Well, when we say Chinese, usually we refer to modern Standard Chinese, that is also Mandarin. We have Asian Chinese, of course, comparing to modern Chinese, but that is no longer used in daily life. We learned it at school, in elementary school and middle school, but that is more of a culture thing. We don't use that anymore. Now Mandarin is the language we use at school and at workplace because China is a really big country and people from all other regions have their own dialects, and it will be really hard for us to communicate if there's no common language. Like I am from Sichuan province, which is also the hometown of Panda. Our dialects belongs to northern dialects in Chinese, and that may sound really a lot like to Mandarin to foreigners because we have many words in common and we only have accents different. But with Cantonese and Shanghainese, it's really different from Mandarin. So that's like the most basic knowledge you should know about Chinese before you start learning Pinyin. So to learn Pinyin is the first step to learn Chinese. Pinyin is divided into three parts: initials, finals, and tongues. Every Chinese character has at least one pinyin. Some have two or three or even more, but that's not common. So if you have learned how to pronounce initials and finals and be able to pronounce the difference between four tongues, you will be able to pronounce any Chinese character if it's marked with pinyin. Well, according to Scheme for the Chinese Phonetic Alphabet, there are 21 initials and 35 finals. According to different dividing systems and textbooks, the numbers may be a little bit different, but the actual numbers in daily writing are the same. Some letters in finals will be omitted according to the writing rules of Pinyin, which I'm gonna elaborate in another video later. As you can see from the video here, we have 23 initials and 35 finals, which I'm gonna have other videos to teach you how to pronounce. So I am just gonna skip here directly to tongues. There are 4 + 1 tongues in Pinyin. As you can see, even with the same initials and finals, by adding different tongues, the Pinyin sounds differently, of course, but also it can be reflected to different characters. So take guo, for example, G-U-O, G, G, as initial, ruo, uo as final. So first sound sounds like guo, second tongue, guo, third tongue, guo, fourth tongue, guo. So if you want to pronounce a Chinese character correctly, you will have to not only memorize the initials and finals, but also tongues, and that can be another difficulty for foreigners. But according to my personal experience, it will not be that much of a trouble. As I said, Chinese have many dialects, and I'm from Sichuan province. So Sichuan in Mandarin pronounces as Sichuan, but in Sichuan dialects it pronounces as Sichuan. You see the difference? Sichuan, Sichuan. Of course, the tongues would be different. Actually, the accents is totally different. But according to my friends from foreign countries and other regions from China, if I talk in not too fast, they can still understand me. So I guess the most important thing is to like use a character or a word in a sentence and try to make that sentence right. So even with some mistake about tongues, it can be like, I don't know, like recognized as an accent, and people can still understand you. So I guess what I'm saying is don't put too much pressure on yourself about the correct pronunciation of tongues. As for +1 light tongue, it's usually used on the characters that don't have actual meaning. By that I mean like in the middle of a sentence to combine two words, or at the end of a sentence to express some emotions or question. And the sound of light tongue is just like the light version of second tongue. Take the example here. The it's usually used after an adjective. For example, beautiful, 漂亮的 handsome, 帅气的 cute, 可爱的 See, that's the. And for second tongue, 的 it means get, well, in this character. So the difference is 的 的 So that is a rough introduction about Chinese Pinyin. Hope it helps you understand better the logic of Chinese Pinyin and Chinese character, and it helps you to learn Chinese easier in the future. In upcoming videos, I will be teaching you how to pronounce the initials and finals, and after that, you will be able to pronounce any Chinese characters if it's marked with Pinyin. Stay tuned!